What happens when the weakest becomes the strongest? For Arya Thornwood, life meant keeping her head down, her voice soft, and her dreams silent. An Omega in the Silvercrest Pack, the lowest rank in a world that worshipped power, she'd learned early that survival meant invisibility. While Alphas commanded armies and Betas held status, Omegas scrubbed floors, served meals, and prayed not to draw attention. But Arya had a secret she didn't even know she carried. A power so vast, it had been bound since birth, locked away by those who feared what she might become. But when her own sister orchestrated her rejection in front of the entire pack, when the mate bond snapped and broke like a chain around her throat, everything changed. And what happens next, no one was prepared for. The full moon hung over Silvercrest territory, like a silver coin pressed against black velvet. Arya stood at the edge of the ceremonial grounds, her fingers twisted in the thin fabric of her dress, the only formal clothing she owned, pale blue and threadbare at the hem. Around her, hundreds of wolves gathered in human form, their voices rising in excited murmurs. Tonight was the mate recognition ceremony, the most sacred event of the season. She shouldn't even be here. Omegas rarely attended such gatherings unless they were serving. But 3 weeks ago, something impossible had happened. The mate bond had snapped into place. Arya had felt it during a simple moment, carrying linens through the packhouse corridor when Alpha Caden Silvercrest walked past. The bond hit her like lightning, searing and unmistakable. For one crystalline second, their eyes met. His wolf recognized hers. The scent of forest and embers and crackling ozone wrapped around her, mixed with something metallic like steel. Power incarnate, everything a wolf could want in an alpha. And then he'd looked away and kept walking. But the bond didn't lie. The moon goddess didn't make mistakes. So Arya had dared to hope. Perhaps status didn't matter. Perhaps their connection transcended hierarchy. Perhaps she could be more than what everyone said she was. Looking nervous, little sister? Arya turned to find Celeste approaching through the crowd, beautiful and terrible as always. Her sister moved with the confident grace of a beta, her dark hair cascading over bare shoulders, her dress the color of fresh blood. The scent of cinnamon and iron followed her like a warning. Celeste. Arya's voice came out smaller than she intended. I didn't think you'd be here. Miss the mate recognition ceremony? Celeste's smile was all teeth. When my dear sister is about to make the biggest fool of herself in pack history, I wouldn't miss it for the world. The words hit like a slap, but Arya straightened her spine. The bond is real. He felt it too. I know he did. Oh, sweet Arya. Celeste leaned close, her breath hot against Arya's ear. You really think an alpha like Caden Silvercrest would claim an Omega? You think he'd throw away his position, his reputation, his future for someone like you? She pulled back, eyes glittering with malice. He asked me to give you a message. He's announcing his chosen mate tonight, and it isn't you. Orchestrated narrative progression toward climactic ceremonial rejection scene. Good start. I'm establishing the world, the hierarchy, the betrayal setup. I need to continue building to the public rejection. Let me keep the emotional intensity high and move toward the ceremonial rejection. I should be around 300, 400 words in, need to reach about 1/500 for Act 1. The ground tilted beneath Arya's feet. That's not... He wouldn't he? Celeste's voice dropped to something almost pitying. Almost. The bond might be real, but reality is about choices. And he's choosing power. He's choosing me. Time stopped. The words couldn't be true. They couldn't. But Arya saw the truth in her sister's eyes, in the cruel satisfaction that curled at the corners of her mouth. Why are you telling me this? Arya whispered. Because I want you to know. I want you to feel it when he rejects you in front of everyone. I want you to understand that I won. I always win. Celeste straightened, smoothing her dress. And because when you're cast out, and you will be, darling, the moment he breaks the bond publicly, I want you to remember it was me. I convinced him you were nothing. I showed him what an embarrassment it would be. I made sure he understood that claiming an Omega would destroy his legacy. You're lying. But Arya's voice shook. Am I? Celeste gestured toward the raised platform where Alpha Kayden stood in full ceremonial regalia. Watch. Learn. And then disappear like the little nothing you've always been. The ceremony began with traditional words spoken by the Pack Elder, but Arya barely heard them. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The mate bond still pulsed in her chest, a golden thread she couldn't see but felt with every breath. It connected her to Kayden, wrapped around her heart and lungs and bones. He wouldn't. He couldn't. Members of Silvercrest, Kayden's voice rang out across the gathering, commanding and absolute. Tonight, I stand before you to honor tradition and make known the will of my wolf. Arya's wolf stirred within her, small, quiet, barely there. Unlike other wolves who could shift at will, hers had always felt distant, muffled, as if separated by thick glass. But now it whimpered, sensing what was coming. The mate bond is sacred, Kayden continued. His scent, forest and embers, ozone and steel, carried on the wind. But an alpha must choose not only with his wolf, but with his duty to the pack. No. 3 weeks ago I felt a bond snap into place, a connection I didn't seek. His eyes found Arya in the crowd. The weight of every gaze followed. Hundreds of pack members turned to stare. With Arya Thornwood, an Omega, whispers erupted like wildfire. Arya felt her face burn. But I am your alpha, and I must think of what is best for Silvercrest's future. Kayden's voice hardened. An alpha-omega mating would weaken our bloodline. It would make us vulnerable to rival packs. It would be a disgrace to generations of strong wolves who built this territory. The bond in Arya's chest began to burn. Therefore, by the authority granted to me as Alpha, witnessed by the Moon Goddess and this pack, I hereby formally reject the mate bond with Arya Thornwood. I choose instead to take Celeste Thornwood, a beta of strong lineage and proven worth, as my chosen mate. The world exploded into agony. Arya screamed. She couldn't help it. The bond didn't just break, it shattered. It felt like someone had reached into her chest and ripped out her heart with burning hands. The pain was physical and mystical and emotional all at once, a tearing sensation that dropped her to her knees. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but feel the mate bond severing, thread by golden thread, each one snapping like a violin string pulled too tight. Through the haze of pain, she heard Celeste laugh. The pack watched in silence. No one moved to help her. This was tradition too. The rejected mate must bear the breaking alone. Arya pressed her forehead to the ground, gasping. Minutes passed. Hours. She didn't know. Eventually, the worst of the pain faded to a hollow ache that filled her entire body. Remove her. Kayden's voice, cold and distant now. Guards approached, 2 massive alphas who gripped her arms and hauled her to her feet. Arya's legs wouldn't support her weight. They dragged her toward the edge of the ceremonial grounds. Wait! Her voice came out broken. Please! The rejected cannot remain at pack gatherings, Kayden said, not even looking at her now. He had his arm around Celeste, and she was glowing with victory. Arya Thornwood, by pack law, you have until dawn to leave Silvercrest territory. If you remain past sunrise, you will be hunted as a rogue. Cast out. The words cut deeper than the bond breaking. No, this is my home. My family. You have no family here. Celeste's voice carried across the grounds. Mother and father agree. Tell her, mother. Arya's eyes found her parents in the crowd. Her mother looked away. Her father's face was stone. Go, her father said quietly. There's nothing for you here. They knew. They'd known Caden would reject her, and they'd chosen to side with Celeste. Chosen the child who brought them status over the one who brought them shame. The guards carried her to the territory border and threw her beyond the boundary markers. Arya landed hard in the dirt, her dress tearing. Behind her, she heard the ceremony resume. Music and laughter. Celebration. They were celebrating while she bled. She tried to stand and failed. Everything hurt. The night was freezing, late autumn edging toward winter, and she wore only the thin dress. No coat. No supplies. No shelter. The forest loomed dark and endless ahead. Rogue wolves hunted here. Predators that would smell her weakness. Humans with guns and traps. She was being sent to die, and everyone knew it. A wave of power washed over the ceremonial grounds as Caden officially claimed Celeste as his mate. Arya felt the echo of it even at this distance. The magic that sealed a chosen bond. It should have been hers. That power, that connection, that future. Her wolf whimpered one last time, then went silent. Arya pushed herself to her feet and stumbled into the dark woods. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to move, had to survive, had to prove them all wrong somehow. But she didn't know how much time she had left. The blizzard came with the fury of a living thing. Arya had been walking for hours, maybe longer. Time lost meaning when every step felt like the last. The temperature had dropped steadily as night deepened, and now snow fell in thick, choking sheets. Wind howled through the trees like 1,000 wolves mourning. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore, couldn't feel her feet. The scent of lavender and morning dew and wildflowers, her own scent, usually soft and barely noticeable, had faded to almost nothing. She was disappearing. This is it, she thought distantly. This is how I die. Part of her wanted to stop walking, wanted to lie down in the snow and let the cold take her. It would be peaceful, wouldn't it? Better than this endless suffering. But something kept her moving, some stubborn spark that refused to go out. Through the snow, she glimpsed a structure, dark and half-collapsed, but shelter. An old barn, abandoned by the look of it, leaning heavily to one side. Arya stumbled toward it, using the last of her strength to pull open the broken door. Inside, the wind cut less viciously. Hay littered the floor, old and musty, but dry. She collapsed into it, pulling what she could over her body. The cold had seeped so deep into her bones that the hay did almost nothing, but it was better than the open night. She couldn't stop shivering. Her teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue and tasted blood. Orchestrated narrative pacing and dramatic turning point construction. Good progress? I'm at about 1,700 words now, so I need to wrap up Act 1 and transition into Act 2. The near-death scene is starting. I need to show her losing consciousness, and then the dramatic rescue by the 10 wolves. Let me continue building the desperation, and then the turning point. I'm sorry, she thought to her wolf, that small, quiet presence she'd carried all her life. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. The wolf didn't answer. Maybe it had already left her. Maybe when the bond broke, it had taken her wolf with it. Arya's eyes drifted closed. The cold didn't hurt anymore. That was probably bad. Some distant part of her knew. When you stopped feeling the cold, the end was near. She thought of Celeste's laugh, of Caden's cold eyes, of her parents' silence. Maybe this was better. Maybe being forgotten was a mercy. Her breathing slowed more. This is it. And then she felt nothing at all. Something warm pressed against her side. Aria's consciousness returned slowly, swimming up through layers of darkness. She couldn't move, couldn't open her eyes. But she was warm? That didn't make sense. She should be frozen solid by now. The warmth shifted. Multiple sources of heat surrounded her. Front, back, sides, above. Breathing. She heard breathing. Slow and steady. Large lungs. Many of them. Her eyes opened to slits. Wolves. Massive wolves surrounded her in a circle, their bodies pressed close, sharing heat. But these weren't normal pack wolves. These were enormous, each one larger than any alpha she'd ever seen. Their fur ranged from midnight black to silver white to deep burnished gold. They watched her with intelligent eyes that gleamed in the darkness. Aria tried to speak and couldn't. Her throat was frozen, her lips cracked and bleeding. One of the wolves, pure white with eyes like glacier ice, leaned down and huffed warm breath across her face. The gesture felt almost protective. I'm hallucinating, she thought. I'm dying, and my brain is showing me impossible things. But the warmth was real. The weight of their bodies pressed against hers was real. She counted them through her blurred vision. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 massive wolves, each radiating power that made her skin prickle even in her half-dead state. They'd saved her. Somehow, they'd found her dying in that barn and chosen to keep her alive. Why? The largest wolf, black as midnight with eyes that burned like embers, moved to face her directly. He was the size of a small bear, his shoulders broader than any wolf she'd seen. The scent of aged oak and winter snow and pine and storm rolled off him in waves, ancient, powerful, dominant. He shifted. The transformation was seamless, bones flowing like water until a man knelt before her. He looked to be in his late 30s, scarred and weathered, with silver threading through dark hair. His eyes remained that burning ember color even in human form. He wore no shirt despite the cold. His chest marked with tattoos that looked like ancient runes. "Easy," he said, his voice rough velvet. "You're safe. We've got you." Aria tried to speak again, managed only a croak. "Don't talk. Conserve your strength." He gestured, and one of the other wolves, a gray female, shifted partially, keeping her fur, but forming hands that held a leather flask. The man, their leader, uncapped it and helped Aria drink. Water, warm and clean. It burned going down her frozen throat, but felt like salvation. "Who?" Aria whispered. "My name is Kieran." He studied her face with an intensity that should have been frightening, but somehow wasn't. "And we've been searching for you for a very long time." That made no sense. She'd never seen him before, never heard of wolves like these. "The storm will pass by morning," Kieran continued. "Rest now. When you're stronger, we'll talk. But know this, Aria Thornwood," her name on his lips sent a shiver down her spine. "We've been waiting for you. The prophecy said you would come. And now that you're here, everything changes." Prophecy, she wanted to ask, wanted to understand, but exhaustion dragged at her like chains. The warmth of the wolves pressed closer, and she felt herself slipping back toward unconsciousness. But this time, she wasn't dying. This time, she was being kept alive, protected, chosen, in a way she'd never been before. "We are the Shadow Guard." Kieran's voice followed her down into sleep. And you are the one we've sworn to serve. The matriarch is risen, and we will see you crowned. Arya woke to daylight filtering through gaps in the barn walls and the murmur of voices. She lay still for a moment, taking inventory. She was alive, breathing, warm beneath layers of what felt like furs she didn't remember getting. Her body ached, but the bone-deep cold had retreated. She opened her eyes to find herself in a different barn, or maybe the same one, but it looked less decrepit now. Someone had built a fire in a cleared space, somehow making it safe. The 10 wolves had shifted to human form and sat in a loose circle, speaking in low tones. All of them were scarred, battle-hardened. They wore simple clothes, leather and fur, and weapons she could see even from where she lay. They looked like warriors from an older age. Kieran noticed her stirring and rose smoothly. "She's awake. Lyra, bring food." A woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes approached, carrying a bowl of something that smelled like heaven. Stew, hot and rich. Arya's stomach growled audibly. "Slow sips," Lyra advised, helping Arya sit up. "Your body's been through trauma." The stew tasted better than anything Arya remembered eating. Real meat, herbs, warmth. She wanted to inhale it, but forced herself to take small bites, as Lyra suggested. The other guards watched with varying expressions: curiosity, respect, something that might have been awe. It made Arya deeply uncomfortable. "I don't understand," she said, when she'd eaten half the bowl. Her voice still rasped, but worked better now. "You called me matriarch? That's not... I'm just an Omega. I'm nobody." "That's what they told you." A man with copper-colored hair and amber eyes spoke up. He had a jagged scar across his jaw that pulled his mouth into a permanent half-smile. "I'm Rowan, and what you are is very much not nobody." "You're scaring her," another woman said sharply. She had dark skin and silver eyes that seemed to see through Arya. "Give her space to breathe. I'm Sage, and you're safe here. That's the first thing you need to know." Kieran settled cross-legged near the fire. "You have questions. We have answers. But some of those answers won't be easy to hear." Arya set down the bowl with shaking hands. "Start with why you were looking for me. Start with what prophecy you meant." "The prophecy of the lunar matriarch," Kieran said, "written 3,000 years ago by the first seers, passed down through generations, mostly dismissed as legend." He reached into his coat and pulled out a leather-bound book, ancient and crumbling. "Until those of us who believed formed the Shadow Guard. We've been searching for decades. Some of us for our entire lives." He opened the book carefully, revealing pages covered in flowing script. The language looked old, but Arya found she could read it, which shouldn't be possible. "When the broken bond restores the stolen crown," Kieran read. "When the lowest rises from death's dark ground. When winter's storm brings mercy's test, the lunar matriarch shall wake from rest. She bears the mark of flower and dew, eyes that hold the moon's own hue. Power-bound shall break its chain, and all the packs shall kneel again." Silence fell heavy as snow. "That's..." Arya shook her head. "That's not me. It can't be." "Broken bond," Rowan ticked off on his fingers. "Check. Lowest rank, Omega? Check. Nearly died in a winter storm. Check. And I'm guessing you smell like lavender and morning dew and wildflowers, yeah?" Arya stared at him. "Your eyes," Lyra said softly, "are silver blue. Like the full moon reflected in water. I've never seen eyes that color on any wolf." "But I have no power," Arya protested. "My wolf is barely there. I can't even shift properly. I've never been able to..." "Because it was bound." Kieran's voice cut through her panic like a blade. "Your power was locked away, hidden, suppressed so completely you never knew it existed. By who? Why would anyone? By your parents. The words fell like stones. When you were born. The world tilted again, just like it had during the rejection. Arya gripped the furs beneath her. No, you're wrong. They wouldn't. They would. They did. A new voice spoke, a man who'd been silent until now, sitting in the shadows. He moved into the firelight, and Arya saw he was younger than the others, maybe mid-20s, with white blonde hair and eyes that shifted colors like storm clouds. I'm Zephyr, and I've spent 10 years learning blood magic to understand binding spells. What was done to you? He shook his head. It's ancient magic, powerful, the kind that requires wolf blood and moonlight and intent. Your parents performed the ritual when you were 3 days old. Why? The word came out as barely a whisper. Fear. Sage spoke gently. You were born during a blood moon. The signs were unmistakable. You would grow into power beyond measure. Power that would remake the wolf world. And your parents. She hesitated. They were afraid. Afraid of what other packs would do if they learned what you were. Afraid you'd be taken, killed, used. So they bound your power, suppressed your wolf, and tried to keep you safe by making you invisible. They made me weak. Anger bloomed in Arya's chest, hot and fierce. They made me nothing. They let everyone treat me like dirt. They let Celeste. She couldn't finish. They thought they were protecting you, Kieran said. But they were wrong. And when the bond broke, when Caden rejected you, the binding shattered. The magic that held your power locked away couldn't survive the trauma of a severed mate bond. It ripped apart. And now, he leaned forward, eyes intense. Now your wolf is waking. Your power is coming back, and you need to be ready. As if summoned by his words, something stirred deep in Arya's chest. Not the small, quiet presence she'd known. This felt vast, ancient, massive, like an ocean that had been dammed suddenly breaking free. Oh gods, she whispered. It's starting, Lyra said, moving closer. Kieran, we need to get her outside. If she shifts in here... The barn was suddenly too small, too hot. Arya's skin felt like it was crawling, bones aching, muscles trembling. The thing inside her, her wolf, her power, whatever it was, pushed. Outside, Kieran commanded. Now, everyone out. They moved as one, the shadow guard forming a protective circle around her as they helped her stumble through the barn door. The snow had stopped. Dawn painted the sky in shades of rose and gold. The air was crisp and clean and filled with scents Arya had never noticed before. She could smell everything. The pine trees 100 yards away. The river flowing beneath ice a mile distant. Small creatures in their burrows. The unique scent of each guard member. And her own scent, lavender and morning dew and wildflowers, blazed so bright it made her eyes water. Let it happen, Kieran's voice came from beside her. Don't fight it. Your wolf wants to be free. The pressure built. Built. And then Arya shifted, orchestrated narrative pacing, and transformation scene development. I'm at around 3,500 words. I need to detail the transformation scene now. This is critical. It should be magical, powerful, and take several paragraphs. Then I need to show the aftermath and the guards' reactions. This is Act 3 territory. I need to get to around 5,500 words by the end of Act 3. But this wasn't like any shift she'd seen or heard described. This wasn't bones snapping and reforming in seconds. This was transformation as art, as magic, as destiny unfolding. Her bones didn't break. They flowed. She felt them elongate and reshape with a sensation that was strange, but not painful. Like water finding a new path. Her spine lengthened, vertebrae adding themselves with liquid grace. Her skull reshaped, facial bones extending into a muzzle with the smooth inevitability of sunrise. Fur erupted across her skin in waves of silver-white light. Not the usual brown or gray of common wolves. This fur shimmered, each strand catching the dawn light and reflecting it back like starlight given physical form. It spread from her core outward, rippling across her changing body in patterns that felt ancient and right. She grew, and grew, and grew. The Shadow Guard stepped back as Arya's wolf form expanded past normal size, past alpha size, past anything that should be possible. Her paws sank deep into the snow, each pad the size of a dinner plate. Her shoulders rose higher, higher, until she stood eye level with Kieran in his human form. And he was not a small man. Power erupted from her core like a dam breaking. It rushed through her veins, filled her lungs, sang in every cell. Energy crackled along her fur, visible as silver sparks that danced and flickered. Her eyes, she couldn't see them but felt them change, burned with cold lunar fire. And then she howled. The sound that ripped from her throat shook the earth. Snow fell from tree branches, ice cracked on the distant river. Birds exploded from the forest in panicked clouds. The howl carried power and command and fury and joy all mixed together, echoing across miles of territory. When it faded, silence pressed down like a held breath. Arya stood on 4 massive legs, her wolf fully present for the first time in her life. And it wasn't small or quiet or distant. It was immense, a presence that filled her completely, powerful and wise and utterly, completely hers. Finally, her wolf said, the voice clear as bells in her mind. Finally, we are whole. Arya would have wept if wolves could cry. You're real. You're here. I have always been here, little one. Sleeping. Waiting. But you freed me. And now, we will show them what we truly are. The Shadow Guard had dropped to their knees. All 10 of them, warriors who looked like they'd never bowed to anyone, knelt in the snow with their heads lowered. Kieran spoke, his voice thick with emotion. The prophecy is fulfilled. The matriarch has risen. We are yours to command. Arya shifted back to human form, and this time the transformation was effortless, natural as breathing. One moment wolf, the next human. She stood naked in the snow, but didn't feel the cold. Power still hummed beneath her skin, warming her from within. Lyra quickly wrapped a cloak around her shoulders. Arya pulled it close, suddenly aware of her vulnerability despite the strength coursing through her. She swallowed hard. I don't know how to be what you're saying I am. You learn. Kieran rose, and the others followed. We teach you. That's our purpose. That's what the Shadow Guard exists for. Tell me who you really are, Arya said. All of you, not just names. Who are you? They shared glances, then Kieran nodded. Show her. As one, they shifted, but they didn't become wolves. They became something far more. Dire wolves. Ancient guardians from the time before recorded history. Each one stood half again, as large as Arya's already massive form. Their fur carried markings that glowed with inner light, runes and symbols of old magic. These weren't normal wolves. They were legend, given flesh. We were created by the first lunar matriarch. Kieran's voice echoed in her mind. Pack speak that all shifters could understand. Forged from magic and moonlight to serve and protect the bloodline. We've walked this world for 3,000 years, waiting, searching. Some of us have lived dozens of human lifetimes. We cannot die by age or disease. We can only fall in battle, and only if our matriarch falls first. You're immortal, Arya breathed. Bound to you. Lyra's voice was gentler. Your life sustains ours. Your death would end us. We are oath-sworn to see you safe, to see you rise, to see justice done. They shifted back to human form, standing in a circle around her. I'm Rowan, the copper-haired man said again. Weapons master. If it can kill, I can teach you to use it. Sage, the woman with silver eyes. Strategy and politics. I've watched empires rise and fall. I'll teach you to navigate power. Zephyr, the storm-eyed young man. Magic and lore. What can be learned, I've learned. What's forgotten, I remember. The others introduced themselves one by one. Thorn, a massive man with a beard and kind eyes. Healer, I'll tend wounds and teach you to do the same. Ember, a petite woman with fire-red hair. Scout and spy, I go where others can't. Frost, a pale man who barely spoke above a whisper. Tracker, nothing escapes me. Raven, a dark-haired woman with a sharp smile. Communications, I'll teach you languages, codes, how to read people. Stone, a scarred warrior who looked carved from granite. Defense, protection, I'll guard your back. Mira, the last to speak, a woman with gentle eyes and strong hands. Logistics, supplies, shelter, everything you need to survive and thrive. 10 warriors, 10 immortal guardians, and they'd been searching for her. The binding your parents placed was brilliant in its way, Zephyr said. It hid you from all of us. We couldn't sense your power, couldn't find you through normal means. We've been searching every pack, every territory, for decades. And then 3 weeks ago. The mate bond, Arya whispered. The mate bond snapped into place with an alpha, Kieran confirmed. That surge of magic was like a flare. We felt it. Knew someone powerful had just connected to a mate. But we still couldn't pinpoint who or where. His jaw tightened. And then last night, the bond broke. The rejection shattered the binding spell completely. Your power erupted like a beacon. We felt you dying and ran through the night to reach you. You saved my life. You saved your own life, Lyra corrected. You survived long enough for us to find you. That took strength most wolves don't have. Arya looked at each of them in turn, these ancient warriors who'd pledged themselves to her. My parents, she said quietly. They bound my power. They let me suffer. They knew what I was, and they chose to make me helpless. They made a choice out of fear, Sage said. But fear is not an excuse. And what they did to you, keeping you weak, vulnerable, isolated, that was a betrayal of the deepest kind. Will you want vengeance? Kieran asked directly. It's your right. Arya thought about it. Thought about her mother's averted eyes, her father's stone face, the years of being treated like dirt, the casual cruelty, the way they'd stood by while Celeste orchestrated her rejection and exile. I want answers, she finally said. I want them to look at me and see what they tried to destroy, and I want them to know they failed. That, Kieran said with fierce approval, we can arrange. But first you need training. You have power, but power without control is dangerous. You could hurt people accidentally. Hurt yourself. How long? Arya asked. Weeks, maybe months. Lyra smiled at Arya's expression. I know you want to face them now, but trust us. When you return to Silvercrest territory, you need to be ready. You need to be undeniable. Arya's wolf stirred again, stretching like a cat in her mind. They're right. We're powerful, but raw. Let them teach us. And then we show everyone what a matriarch can do. Okay, Arya agreed. Teach me. Make me ready. And then, Kieran finished, his smile sharp as a blade. We remind the Pax why they used to fear the lunar matriarch. We remind them what happens when you cast out a queen. The days blurred into weeks. The Shadow Guard moved them to a proper shelter, a cabin deep in unclaimed territory, far from any Pax borders. It was ancient but solid, clearly maintained by them over the years. A safe house, a training ground. Every morning began before dawn. Kieran pushed Araya through shifting exercises until it became as natural as breathing. Human to wolf. Wolf to human, over and over, until she could do it mid-stride without breaking pace. Again, he'd call out, tireless. Faster! Your life might depend on the speed of your shift. Arya learned to control the power that wanted to radiate from her constantly. Learned to dampen it, hide it, make herself seem normal when needed. And learned to release it in controlled bursts that could knock opponents off their feet without killing them. Rowan taught her to fight. Not just wolf combat, teeth and claws and dominance, but human fighting. Knives, staffs, hand to hand. Your wolf is powerful, he said, disarming her for the 10th time that day. But sometimes you'll need to fight human. Be ready for anything. She learned quickly. Faster than should be possible. The matriarch's power included enhanced learning, enhanced reflexes, enhanced everything. Sage taught her pack politics and hierarchy, explaining the complex web of alliances and feuds between territories. Knowledge is power, Sage insisted. Know your enemies. Know their histories, their weaknesses, their ambitions. Zephyr showed her magic, the way power could be shaped and directed, not just released. Basic healing spells, shields, communication over vast distances. Magic is intent made manifest, he explained. Your power is vast, but it needs focus. And between training sessions, she bonded with them, found family in these ancient warriors who'd given their lives to finding her. Stone had a dry humor that surprised her. Mira baked bread that tasted like childhood comfort. Ember told stories that made everyone laugh. Frost barely spoke, but his presence was steady as mountains. Raven taught her card games and cheated shamelessly. Thorn hummed while he worked, old songs in languages Arya didn't know. And Kieran was always there, watching, guiding. His scent, aged oak and winter snow and pine and storm, became as familiar as her own. She caught him looking at her sometimes, with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not the awed reverence the others sometimes showed. Something more complicated, more personal. One night, unable to sleep, Arya found him standing watch outside the cabin. The moon hung full and heavy above. "Can't rest?" he asked without turning. "Too much in my head." She moved to stand beside him. "Kieran, when you said you've been searching for decades, how long for you specifically?" 70 years. His voice was quiet. "I was born in 1955, became a wolf at 15. Found the prophecy at 20, pledged myself to the Shadow Guard at 25, and I've been searching ever since. You've lived through so much. I've seen empires fall and technology rise, and the wolf world shrink as humans expanded. I've seen good alphas and terrible ones, strong packs and weak, but I never stopped believing you were out there." He finally looked at her, ember eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "And now you're here, and you're everything the prophecy said, and more." Something in his tone made her heart skip. "Kieran, you should know," he interrupted, "that we can't be fated mates. The bond you had with Caden, that was the moon goddess's gift. It only happens once. When it broke, that chance died. Arya absorbed that. It should hurt, but it didn't. Not really. but chosen mates can happen. Like Kaidan chose Celeste? Yes. Chosen bonds aren't as powerful magically, but they can be just as strong emotionally. Maybe stronger, because they're built on choice instead of destiny. He hesitated. The Shadow Guard. We're sworn to you. Some might see a romantic relationship as inappropriate, but the oath doesn't forbid it. It just has to be your choice. Freely made. She understood what he wasn't saying, understood the weight of his gaze, the way he'd always made sure she was warm enough, fed enough, safe enough, the way his scent calmed her wolf. I'm not ready, she said honestly. Not yet. Too much is still broken in me. But Kieran. She reached out and took his hand. His skin was warm, calloused from centuries of fighting. When I am ready, when I've faced them and reclaimed what's mine. Ask me then. His fingers tightened on hers. That's all I needed to hear. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the moon paint silver patterns across the snow. Inside the cabin, Arya felt her power settle deeper into her bones. She was growing into it, growing into herself, becoming the matriarch the prophecy had foreseen. And soon, very soon, it would be time to go home. The scout stumbled into Silvercrest territory with news that made Alpha Kaidan go very still. She's alive, the scout gasped. Arya Thornwood. She survived. And she's not alone. Kaidan had been in his office, reviewing Border Patrol reports with Celeste, draped across the chair opposite him. The mate bond between them was functional, but felt hollow compared to the instinctive pull he'd felt with Arya. He'd spent 3 weeks trying not to think about that. That's impossible, Celeste said flatly. No Omega could survive a winter storm with no supplies. I saw her. The scout, a young beta named Marcus, couldn't seem to stop shaking. I was checking the northern borders, and I caught her scent, followed it, and I saw. He swallowed hard. She was training, combat training, with at least 10 others. And Alpha, his voice dropped. She's changed. She's not an Omega anymore. I don't know what she is, but the power coming off her, it felt like standing next to the sun. Kaidan's wolf stirred uneasily. You're mistaken. The bond broke. She would have died from that alone. I know what I saw, and there's more. Marcus pulled out a small cloth bundle. I found this near their camp. It's marked with a symbol I've never seen before. He unwrapped the cloth to reveal a silver medallion. The symbol etched into it made Kaidan's blood run cold. He'd seen it once before, in a very old book in his father's study. The mark of the Shadow Guard. Myths, legends, ancient warriors who supposedly served. No, he whispered. What is it? Celeste demanded. But Kaidan was already moving, striding toward his father's library. He tore through old texts until he found it. A dusty tome, written in ancient pack speak. And there, on a yellowed page, was the symbol. And next to it, the prophecy. When the broken bond restores the stolen crown. Oh gods, Kaidan breathed. What have I done? The confrontation came 3 weeks later. The Shadow Guard's scouts reported movement. A war party from Silvercrest, at least 20 wolves, heading directly toward their location. Not hunting or patrolling. Marching with purpose. They know you're here, Kieran said grimly. Someone must have spotted us. Arya stood in the cabin's main room, strapping on the leather armor Mira had fitted for her. She looked nothing like the terrified Omega who'd fled into the storm. Her hair was longer, wilder. Her eyes gleamed silver blue even in human form. Power hummed visibly across her skin. Good, she said. I'm ready. We could relocate, Sage offered. Move deeper into unclaimed lands. Make them chase. No. Arya's voice rang with command. Not loud, but absolute. I'm done running. If they've come here, they've come to me. And they're going to learn what happens when you cast out a queen." The Shadow Guard exchanged looks of fierce pride. They met Silvercrest's war party in a clearing half a mile from the cabin. 23 wolves in battle formation, with Kaidan at the front. Celeste stood at his right hand, beautiful and deadly. Arya's parents were there too, looking uncomfortable but determined. Arya walked forward alone, flanked by the Shadow Guard in human form. She'd left her armor at the cabin, wore simple clothes, leather pants, and a loose shirt. Let them see she wasn't afraid. Kaidan shifted to human form as they approached. His scent, forest and embers, ozone and steel, washed over her. She felt nothing. The bond was truly gone. "Arya," his voice was carefully neutral, "you survived. No thanks to you." Her voice was colder than the winter winds. "I'm glad you're alive. But you need to come back. This," he gestured at the Shadow Guard, "this is dangerous. You're in over your head. Whatever these wolves promised you, these wolves saved my life when you threw me away." Arya's power rippled outward, making the snow around her feet melt. "When you rejected me and cast me out to die, when my own family abandoned me." Her mother flinched. Her father's jaw tightened. "We need to talk," Kaidan said. "Privately. I've learned things about prophecies and bloodlines and you've realized what you destroyed." Arya's smile was sharp as broken glass. "You figured out that I wasn't just some random Omega, that there was a reason the bond snapped to me, and now you want to fix it." "The bond can't be restored," Kaidan admitted, "but we can make a new arrangement. Bring you back into the pack with a different rank. Give you status." "I don't need you to give me status." Arya's eyes blazed brighter. "I don't need you for anything." Celeste stepped forward, her scent, cinnamon, iron, blood, sharp with aggression. "You ungrateful little wretch. After everything we did. After everything you did?" Arya's laugh was bitter. "You orchestrated my rejection. You convinced Kaidan I was worthless. You've spent our entire lives making me small. And for what? Jealousy? Ambition? You think you can just take what's mine?" Celeste's voice rose. "I'm the Alpha's mate now. I have rank, power, respect. You have nothing." Arya's voice dropped to something deadly. "You have a title built on lies, and I'm about to show you the difference between a chosen mate and a lunar matriarch." Celeste snarled and shifted, her wolf form sleek and powerful, a strong beta, undeniably. She launched at Arya, all teeth and claws and rage. Arya didn't move. She simply released a fraction, just a fraction of her power. A wave of energy exploded outward, visible as silver light. It caught Celeste mid-leap and slammed her back into the snow 20 feet away. She hit hard enough to crack the frozen ground. When she tried to rise, Arya's power pressed down on her like a physical weight. "Stay down," Arya commanded, and Celeste had no choice. Her wolf whimpered and flattened completely, unable to even lift her head. Pure dominance. Pure power. Absolute. Kaidan shifted immediately, his alpha wolf massive and intimidating. The rest of his war party followed. 23 wolves facing 11. But then the Shadow Guard shifted, and everything changed. Dire wolves materialized in the clearing, each one twice the size of the largest alpha, marked with glowing runes. Radiating power that made the very air shimmer. They formed a protective circle around Arya, and even Kaidan's most battle-hardened wolves shrank back. "What?" Kaidan's mind-speak shook. "What are they?" "The Shadow Guard," Kieran's voice echoed across pack mind. "The immortal warriors sworn to the lunar matriarch. And you, Alpha Kaidan, have made a grave mistake." Arya shifted, and when her wolf form rose to its full height, massive, glowing, magnificent, half of Kaidan's wolves dropped to the ground in automatic submission. Even Kaidan's wolf lowered its head, instinct overriding pride. "I am Arya Thornwood," her voice rang out, audible to all. "Daughter of the lunar matriarch bloodline, bearer of the ancient power, and I claim these lands as my territory. All of you are trespassing." "This is Silvercrest territory," Kaidan managed, but his voice lacked conviction. "Was." Arya moved forward, each step measured. "You forfeited your claim when you cast out your true mate, when you broke the bond the moon goddess herself forged, when you chose politics over destiny." She stopped directly in front of him. Even in wolf form, she towered over him. "Kneel." It wasn't a request. It was command, backed by 3,000 years of power, by prophecy fulfilled, by destiny manifest. And Kaidan's wolf, despite his pride, despite his rank, despite everything, knelt. His entire pack followed, every wolf pressed belly to snow, necks exposed, showing absolute submission. Arya shifted back to human form, standing naked in the snow, but radiating too much power to seem vulnerable. Lyra quickly brought a cloak, and Arya pulled it around her shoulders. "Here are my terms," she said. "This territory, everything within 10 miles of this clearing, is now mine. You will respect the borders. You will tell every pack you encounter that the lunar matriarch has returned. And you," she looked directly at Kaidan, "will live with the knowledge that you rejected the greatest gift the moon goddess could offer. You chose wrong, and you'll spend the rest of your life knowing it." Kaidan shifted to human form, still on his knees. "Arya, please. I was wrong. I know that now. If I could take it back. But you can't." Her voice wasn't angry anymore, just sad. "You made your choice. Now live with it." She turned to her parents. "And you bound my power to keep me safe. But all you did was make me a victim. You stole years of my life. Made me weak when I should have been strong." Her mother was crying. Her father looked broken. "I know why you did it," Arya continued. "Fear, protection, love in your twisted way. But that doesn't make it right." She took a deep breath. "I'm not ready to forgive you. Maybe I never will be. But I'll give you a choice. Leave Silvercrest. Start over somewhere new. Or stay and watch me become everything you tried to prevent." "We're sorry," her mother whispered. "We're so sorry." "Sorry isn't enough, but it's a start." Arya looked at Celeste, still pinned by her power. "And you, my dear sister. You wanted rank and respect and power. So here's what you get: banishment. You're cast out. Rogue. And if you ever set foot in my territory, or any pack that swears to me, you'll be hunted." She released the power holding Celeste down. Her sister shifted to human form, furious and terrified in equal measure. "You can't. I can. I am. Get out of my sight." Celeste looked to Kaidan for help. He couldn't meet her eyes. She fled into the forest, and Arya felt nothing but relief. "The rest of you," Arya addressed the Silvercrest wolves, "I pass no judgment on. You followed your alpha. That's not a crime. But know this: the world is changing. The old ways, the old hierarchies, the cruel traditions that let people like me be abused, they're ending. I am the lunar matriarch. I am the new law, and I will protect every wolf too weak to protect themselves." She let her power blaze one more time, a declaration and a promise and a threat all woven together. "Now go, before I change my mind about mercy." The Silvercrest wolves fled, all except Kaidan, who knelt in the snow a moment longer. "I'm sorry," he said. "For what it's worth, I'm truly sorry." "I believe you," Arya replied. "But that doesn't change anything. Go home, Kaidan. Be the alpha you claimed you needed to be, and leave me to be what I was always meant to be." He rose slowly and shifted, running to catch up with his pack. Arya stood alone in the clearing, except not alone. The Shadow Guard surrounded her, 10 immortal warriors who'd given everything to find her. Kieran shifted to human form and approached. "You did well. I let them live. Justice, not vengeance. That's what makes you worthy." He smiled. "The Pax will hear of this. Word will spread. And they'll come. Some to swear loyalty, some to challenge. Are you ready?" Arya thought about it. Thought about the scared Omega who'd fled into a blizzard. And thought about the woman she was now. Powerful, confident, crowned without a ceremony. "Yes," she said. "I'm ready. Let them come. Let them see what happens when you underestimate the weak. When you forget that power can be bound, but never destroyed." Her wolf stirred in agreement, satisfaction radiating through their bond. "We are matriarch," her wolf said, "and our reign has just begun." Months passed. Arya's territory grew as other wolves, outcasts, rogues, those mistreated by their packs, came seeking sanctuary. She built a new kind of pack, one based on merit and loyalty rather than bloodline, one where Omegas were protected, not abused, where power was shared, not hoarded. The Shadow Guard trained them all, built them into something formidable. Other packs noticed. Some sent diplomats seeking alliance. Others sent challenges that were swiftly defeated. Arya's reputation spread like wildfire. The Omega who rose, the matriarch reborn, the queen who showed mercy but demanded justice. And through it all, Kieran remained at her side. Leader of her guard, her closest advisor, she didn't have a word for it yet. But when he looked at her with those ember eyes, when his scent wrapped around her like safety made manifest, she knew. One night, under a full moon, he found her standing on the ridge overlooking their growing settlement. "Can't sleep again?" he asked. "Too much to be grateful for," she replied. "I keep thinking about where I was a year ago. Scared, powerless, convinced I was nothing. And now I know what I am. Who I am." She turned to face him fully. "And I know what I want." Kieran went very still. "Arya, you told me to tell you when I was ready." She stepped closer. "When I'd faced them and reclaimed what was mine. I've done that. I'm not broken anymore. I'm not running. I'm here. Fully. Finally." "You're sure?" His voice was rough. "I've never been more sure of anything." He closed the distance between them, cupping her face in scarred hands. "I've waited 70 years to find you. I'll spend the rest of my very long life making sure you never regret this." When he kissed her, it felt nothing like the mate bond had. That had been destiny forcing connection. This was choice. This was two people who'd found each other through prophecy and pain and triumph, choosing to build something together. Power flared between them, his ancient magic recognizing hers, twining together in patterns that glowed against the night sky. Not a mate bond, something different, something chosen. When they pulled apart, Arya felt complete in a way she never had before. "My matriarch," Kieran whispered. "My guardian," she replied. "My chosen. My mate." The bond settled between them like a promise. Not mystical compulsion, but conscious devotion. Stronger for being freely given. Below them, in the settlement, wolves celebrated another successful day. Music and laughter drifted up on the wind. Arya's found family, growing larger every day. But on the horizon, storm clouds gathered. And in those clouds, Arya sensed something ancient stirring, a threat older than prophecy. The blood moon was coming, and with it, a test that would determine whether her reign truly would reshape the wolf world. But that was a challenge for tomorrow. Tonight, she stood with her chosen mate, her power fully realized, her throne secured not through birthright, but through survival and strength and the refusal to stay broken. "Let them come," she said softly. "Whatever's next, we'll face it together." Kieran's hand found hers. Together, he agreed. And so Arya's journey from rejected Omega to crowned matriarch came full circle. She'd been cast out and left to die. She'd been broken and bound and betrayed. But she'd survived. She'd transformed. And she'd risen to claim not just a territory, but her destiny. The weak can become strong. The rejected can become queens. And sometimes the worst betrayal becomes the catalyst for the greatest transformation. For those who wronged her, there was judgment, swift and just. For those who stood by her, there was loyalty unto death. And for the wolf world that had forgotten what a matriarch could do, there was a reckoning. Because Arya Thornwood wasn't just powerful now, she was inevitable. And her story, the story of the Omega who lived, the Alpha King who fell, and the matriarch who changed everything, was just beginning. What happens when the moon goddess's chosen is rejected? What happens when ancient power is finally unbound? What happens when the lowest rises to rule them all? Now you know. But this is only the first chapter. The blood moon rises. Ancient enemies stir. And Arya's greatest challenges still lie ahead. Did you feel the power of her transformation? Could you sense the justice in her choices? Do you think Caden deserved mercy, or should she have been harsher? And what about her parents? Can such a betrayal ever truly be forgiven? Let us know in the comments below. Hit that like button if you want to see more of Arya's reign. Share this story with anyone who loves powerful heroines and epic transformations. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss the next chapter of the Lunar Matriarch saga. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next chapter, when the blood moon rises and ancient enemies emerge from the shadows. Until then, remember that power recognizes power, and queens bow to no one.